Let's begin our time in meditation by joining together in singing our Lord's Prayer. For thine, God, is the kingdom and the power and the glory of life forever. Forever. We let go of the outer world. The outer self. We let go. And as we travel within, there is this place of peace and centeredness. It's a place of strength. A place of nurturing. Be still. Peace. Be still. And as we travel inward, we step away from body and realize I am not my body. I am much more than that. We step away from the roles that we play in life. We step away from personality and opinions. And we realize I am not this personality. I am much more. While the personality can be in a dither and filled with emotions, here deep within, I am at peace. Here deep within, I am the child of God, created in the Father's image. And God is spirit. Here within I know I am spirit. I am an eternal spiritual being. A child of God come into this earth in this particular life. This body, this personality for just a short time. But I, the soul, was before I came in and will be after I leave. And there I am within right now. So look out through the eyes of your soul. See this body that you have taken on and this personality that you've also taken on, with its roles in this particular life and this particular place. No, I am the child of God. And I can let God's love and God's light shine out through this personality with all its quirks, strange things that it does. And I, the soul, I am in charge. whatever the world may throw my way, even when my personality struggles. I am master of myself. And as I let God's light and God's love shine out through me, the world eventually responds. And my life changes for the better. I am who I am. We are sons and daughters of the Most High. Here to shed God's light and God's love on this life, in this time, and in this place. And in that sense of purpose, I am rooted. Father, for thy power shining through me from within, I am truly grateful. Thy will be done in each of our lives. Amen. Your show. I'm going to talk about self-mastery. Noemi on the way out said, I don't know. This time, you got halfway through and I had more than I could do this week. I think you gave me like a whole bunch of stuff to do, oh my God. And I said, well, self-mastery is not a week project. It's lifelong. So let's talk about that self-mastery as a lifelong project. It's what we came here to do. We incarnate into this world to prevail over its challenges. If I didn't have any challenges, it wouldn't be any fun. Now, personally, I would beg to differ with that, but I know my soul would not. As souls, we come in for the challenges. And we're given a personality when we come in. And you're not given a personality to have it totally run your life. You're given a personality in order to master it. It's like a horse. Partway through my life, I discovered I'm a horse person. In my first marriage, I had 2 kids. One was a horse person, Terry, the girl. Ricky thought the horse ought to have a throttle. He'd rather have a motorcycle. A horse is a living being that you have to work with. And I've been on a horse that runs away with you. We had one horse went out, and we brought another one out, and didn't realize the 2 of them had a rivalry going. And once they started running, nobody was going to stop them. And it's pretty wild when you're on a horse that's running away. In fact, my only other experience with riding earlier in life was at Boy Scout camp when we got on these horses and they put everybody on the horse and you're supposed to ride up there and then come right back. And my horse knew it was nearly time for lunch. And I rode up there and then I rode way on beyond. They had to send somebody after me. They were all mad at me for not controlling my horse. How do you expect me to control my horse? And that's what we say about our personalities. But as a horse person, I can tell you, if you learn to manage your horse, it's a beautiful ride. if you have self-mastery, it's a beautiful ride through this life. And if you don't, you get to ride where you don't want to go. A horse will take you. I wanted to actually start the talk with a story that I told in the past. A little book that was given to me by my father when I was in my latter teens, maybe early 20s. I was in college. It's called My Friend Will. I've given a number of copies away. I made sure both my kids got it. It's written it was written from short stories that were written right there at the end of the 1800s, and I think it was put together in book form in 1910 or something like that. It's by Charles Loomis, and it's his story, but he doesn't tell you that till the end. He's a young, strapping man who had a great body and a sharp mind. He was proud of the whole package. And he wanted to live a life of adventure. He was a writer. So he was invited to go out and take over this newspaper in this little town that was up and coming. I think they called it San Francisco. And he went out, and he's, proud of his. He's only 5'7", but strong as an ox. He had this sharp mind and was a great writer. He was going to make a difference in San Francisco. He worked 23 hours a day with no problem. His body, 1 hour sleep, and he could go back at it. So he was really surprised one day when the body gave out and he had a stroke. It's on the ground. And he wasn't quite sure how to deal with this. This is someone who's used to succeeding, used to having his personality and body do exactly what he wants. He's used to doing anything he wanted. All of a sudden, the right side of his body betrayed him. He said no more. When he finally got over it, he got the use of his right leg back, though it was weaker than the other. But his right arm was dead to it. It just didn't move. That was it. And you'd think that he would fall back and say, oh, I don't know. My life is ruined. What shall I do? But he was like, no, I'm going to get over this. And his idea of getting over it was not go home and convalesce. He got himself a horse and headed out east into Arizona and New Mexico. Figure, I'll go to nature. His idea of recovering was to go out and live hard on the land with cowboys out there, and this was a wild territory at that time. And he decided he was going to document it, so he got himself this great big camera, and they were big things at that time. He learned how to do everything with one hand. He said, okay, if this is what life has dealt me, fine, but I can still do what I want to do. I'm still captain of my ship. So he went out, and some of his photographs were the best documentation of the West during that period of time that ever happened. He took pictures of Indians who didn't want to have their picture taken, but he was holding a gun while he took their picture. Ran into it with the banditos, got shot, and then went back to see if they wanted to do any more shooting, and they liked his spirit, so they made friends with him. I mean, he was a wild being. Took a bath every morning. He was known for being absolutely crazy because it could be 32 degrees or lower out there, and he'd go take a bath in the stream every morning. That crazy gringo. But he slowly but surely not only lived this adventurous life, but he was starting to think he was getting feeling back in his arm when he was hit by a second stroke. Now this one devastated him. He lost everything. When he was done, he had his left arm and he could move his head around. Everything else didn't work. He couldn't talk. And worst of all, he couldn't write. He said there was a a ceiling in my brain. You'd say that life had handed him about as difficult a circumstances as life can hand. But he didn't give up. It was in the middle of this convalescing. He first in the hospital, and then finally he convinced him to let him go out and crawl around on the land with the one arm that he could use and go home, someplace where he could touch the earth. He felt the earth would help to heal. And but in the midst of that hospital, in his lowest point, that's when he wrote, "I am the captain of my ship." You know, he couldn't write anymore. That was his biggest thing. He couldn't write articles. He couldn't do things like that. Any big writing projects, he had a ceiling in the brain that just didn't work. So he adapted, and he started writing jokes to send them off to publish, to try to, in different magazines of the time, to try to get a little money flowing in his life. And he wrote some poetry. One of the things he wrote was, "I am the captain of my ship." Basically, he said, I stand inside and I have the lock, and all those outside experiences that happen to me, they happen to me, but they do not have control over my life as long as I stand inside and say, I am responsible for my life. Well, that's the attitude that I want to talk about that we really need toward all of our lives. Self-mastery, but from within. It's not the outer version we talk about. You do not have control over the people around you, and you do not have control over the things that happen to you. But you do have control over yourself and how you react. And that can make all the difference in the world. That means you're still captain of your ship. No matter how low life kicks you, no matter how big the storm, you still control whether you give up and say, my life is ruined, or whether you say, I'm still going to make the dream happen. I don't care. I'm from within. I am responsible for my life, and there's nothing out there that has control of my life but me. You may have control of your body. You can have a stroke. You may have control of all kinds of things. The world may come up with all kinds of storms for you to have to face. But don't ever give up the tiller. Don't ever quit being the captain of your life. Now, how do we quit? Oh, well, it's called excuses. And we're all good at them, aren't we? We have excuses for why I can't create a good life. There's just too many things in my way. That's outside the door. You're the control. You have mastery of what's inside of you. Those outside things, they can't control how you feel unless you let them. Excuses for why I shouldn't follow my spiritual ideals in this instant. I'm sorry, this is just too weird. I can't, this is too distorted. I can't do it at this point. And we have excuses for why I'm not responsible for how my life turned out. Hey, I'm not saying that bad things didn't come out of nowhere, because sometimes they do. But if you ever start blaming everything else in life, you've given up your power. You have said, you have control of my life. You have control of my life. How many people know that our lives were ruined by somebody else? And as long as you believe that, you aren't captain of your ship. You've given it up. Outside forces hold me back. People hold me back. body challenges, financial challenges, addictions, lack of opportunity. It's just too hard. Self-mastery is about being the CEO of your life. We're always seeing stories in the news these days of the CEO who says, well, this thing happened under my watch. I didn't necessarily do it. I didn't even know it was going on, but that's my fault for not knowing it was going on. Okay? And that's the type of responsibility we want to take for our life. You can only change your life if you're responsible for it. If other people are responsible for why you're where you are, you can't change that. But the moment you say, it's my life, I take responsibility, like the CEO says, it was under my watch, I take responsibility. The moment you say that about your life, you just took your power back. Because if it's your life and you're going to be responsible for where you are, you can do something about it. You can change it. And you say, oh, then I change things in the outer world. No, the most important thing you can do is change yourself. You don't have control over that. But you do have control over this. And if you can change the way you feel inside, you can change your life, because life will change. And that's being captain of your ship. It also means you're never going to give up, because life is going to knock you down once in a while. And you're going to get back up. You're going to remember Charles Loomis, who was knocked as low as you can be knocked and refused to say that the world had destroyed him. And in the end, of course, I never told you the end of the story, did I? In the end, he demonstrated a wonderful life, and even in the end got his body back, and the last thing to come back was his voice. Everything finally, and by finally I mean years, came back, because he never gave up. We have these spiritual ideals that we say I'm dedicated to. I want my life to serve God. And then something comes along and we go, yeah, well, I don't know how I could have a positive attitude towards what's going on right now. Well, we're giving away our power. You can do it. We have so many reasons why we shouldn't have to live up to our spiritual ideals in this moment. After all, things have gotten too distorted. I need to face violence with violence. I need to, and by that I sometimes just mean verbal violence. Anger with anger, this, etc. We have all kinds of excuses to fall short. But we need to be the CEO who looks and says, okay, I've fallen short. I take responsibility, and I will change myself. You change yourself, you'll change your world. It's the only way you truly change your world. You change the outer world, but not yourself, it'll be back where it was before long. You change yourself, the outer world changes, moves on. So we have to ask ourselves, am I living up to my spiritual ideals? And if the answer is no, you're in good company. Just about every one of us in here would have to answer no. It's a lifelong project. But we can get back on the path of being captain of our ship and saying, okay, I'm going to improve things. Our attitude needs to be, I am the captain of this ship. I am the master of this personality. I am the master of this personality's yearnings, its emotions, and its patterns. So many get led around by those things. When emotions run your life, you're on that wild horse running where you don't want to go. I refuse to be herded like cattle by my emotions, by adversity, by fear, or even by the crowd. You're the captain of your ship. I don't care if everybody else is doing it. That's the crowd. You're the captain of your ship. And if you're willing to take on that responsibility, there's real hope for you. Amazing things can happen. But if you give it away to the world around you and say, well, I can't because of this or that or the other, game's over. So we're going to talk about taking that power back. I will use my life. This is the attitude we need to have. I will use my life to serve goodness, to serve God, and I will not give up on my spiritual ideals because the world tells me I must fail and knocks me down. I am the master of myself. Or as John wrote in his first letter, that which is in me is greater than that which is in the world. He actually wrote, that which is in you is greater than that which is in the world. This is the basic spiritual path, any way you cut it. Self-mastery is what the spiritual path is really all about. Trying to become a positive thinker, we say, just become a positive thinker. Just become. Do you know how hard it is to stop negative patterns from happening when that's the norm in society? To actually turn away from all the negativity and put our attention on the goodness of life? Well, Joshua 24:15. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You and your house, or you and your thoughts and your feelings, you and your consciousness. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You're going to have to say that to yourself every single day. We will serve the Lord. I'm going to let my consciousness concentrate on goodness, no matter what the rest of the world is doing. Because believe me, the rest of the world will probably not be there with you most of the time. You want to make a difference? Take a stand for goodness in life. Say, okay, yeah, there's stuff going on. Of course there is. But what I'm going to put my energy into is the beauty in life, the goodness in life, the possibilities, and the hope that things are moving in a new and wonderful direction. And if I can hold steady on this course for long enough, my life's going to begin to reflect that. There are going to be winds coming up to try to blow me off course. But if I hold steady on goodness, my life will eventually express goodness. Proverbs 25:28, like a breached city that has no wall, so is the man who lacks self-control. Self-control. If you do not have control of yourself, the world has control of you. Your city has been breached. You have no citadel. You've already lost the war. So, we seek self-control. When you study will, you find there is the spiritual use of will, or the appropriate use of will, and the inappropriate use of will. But the one place you can be sure that will is right is when you use it on yourself. My dad was a Methodist minister when I was born. I understand we went around, he had a charge in North Dakota. A charge was not one church, it was like 3 little tiny ones that he drove 160 miles every Sunday and did 3 different services. And I sat through them all as a tiny baby. And if I cried, Mom took me out and explained to me in a good way that I shouldn't be doing that. The bottom line was I had to learn self-control very early in life. My behavior reflected back on my parents, and I knew it. But you know, that very self-control that was such a challenge to learn early in life has been my key to every bit of success I've ever attained. To the degree that you are master of yourself, is the degree to which you will succeed in life. Any way you cut it. And part of that mastery is in 2 Corinthians 10:5, capture every thought to the obedience of Christ. There are plenty of people out there willing to think all kinds of violent thoughts. Jesus said, if you've thought it, you've already done it. Right? So, can we create in our consciousness a place that centers on goodness? I'm not saying there's not all kinds of difficulty in the world around you. There most certainly is. But your inner self needs to be a citadel of goodness. So, capture every thought to the obedience of Christ. We'll spend our lives doing this. Turning away from the negativity and embracing the beauty and the goodness that we can find in whatever situation we're in. It's a lifelong project. Ephesians 4:22 through 24 says, lay aside all your former practices, that is to say the old man which is degenerated with deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, but put on the new man who is created in God in righteousness and true holiness. You see, that's the beauty of this. You can be who you want to be. You can be the angry, we could add a few other adjectives, who walks around in life. Or you can be the one who holds for goodness. It's your choice. Now you have a personality that has all kinds of, quote, deceitful lusts, okay, that has all kinds of negative emotions that can run away with you. But the bottom line is, you still choose. Do you remember, one of my favorite stories is to tell you the source of pain, emotional pain. After my divorce, it really hurt. It hadn't been my choice. And I was in absolute misery, and I wanted to know why it hurt so bad. So I spent 6 weeks meditating on my pain. Instead of running from it and trying to hold it out, I spent all this, every day I spent an hour in the office, lights off, back up against the wall, sitting on the floor, trying to feel my pain and figure out why it hurt. Where did that pain come from? Why did this hurt so bad? And so I just followed it and followed it. And I'm a slow learner. It took me 6 weeks. Well, I finally got there and came out of that meditative experience, and I went, I know exactly why it hurts. He said, okay, what is the source of pain? And my answer was, nothing. It's a choice. You choose to be hurt or not. It's a switch you turn on or off. Most of us are not masters of ourselves. We don't know how to turn the switch off and say, okay, I understand. So-and-so betrayed me. Well, that's really saddening because that means they have a tremendous weakness. I'm sorry for them. But I don't have to be hurt. That's my choice. You do not have choice over what the people do to you. You do have choice over how you react and how you choose to feel. You say, I can't control what I feel. Well, not true at all. Although I will tell you it's hard. It takes real effort. You've got to use self-will to turn away from pain and center on whatever beauty you can find in your life at that time. But that's what being captain of your ship is all about. Romans 12:2, be ye transformed by the renewing of your minds. And that is the hope, isn't it? That if you renew the way you are, if you do a little house cleaning, clean up some of the garbage out of yourself that you obsess upon and say, I'm not going to obsess on that anymore. Every time I do it, and it'll take a while, habits are hard to break. I'll keep turning back to something good, something joyful, something that I like in life. And if you can change yourself, you literally will transform your life. Your life will follow. If you hold it, it will take self-will and self-mastery to hold yourself in a good space over a period of time. But you do that, you control the inner world, the outer will change. Which leads us to the last scripture, which is 1 Timothy 4:16. Keep a close watch on yourself and on your teaching. Keep an eye on yourself. Most people pay no attention. Watch yourself and see what you're doing. We're so busy defending ourselves that we don't see ourselves clearly. And you can only have true mastery if you're willing to see yourself clearly. One of my favorite stories on that is from back when I was first ordained, back before I even left Unity Village. Another, what is it? Cohort? What are they? Colleague. Another colleague and I took over creating a program for the 12 and 13-year-olds at the week-long Unity Convention, the International Convention, that was being held that year in Kansas City. And we discovered it's the most interesting group of teenagers, children. They're halfway between everything. But in any case, we had planned a big trip out to Unity Village, a field trip. We had a bus, so we'd all go out and explore Unity Village, and my God, was that an experience. And it had been chaos all day long. A number of things had gone wrong in the process. I had something I was going to present. It got left on the bus. Didn't happen, and by the end of the day, I had about at my wit's end, and the kids were getting back on the bus, and my God, somebody took away their governors. And, they were just pouring out the windows. They were coming on, and you'd see out to their waist, out all the windows, and screaming and yelling and this and that. And I'd had enough. And my mom started coming out of me. And I started yelling. The idea is to act as mean and as vicious as you can until they are subdued. And then my colleague suddenly is tapping me on the shoulder as I'm standing at the front of the bus having this tirade. And she says, Bob, just let me do it. And I looked at her like, why are you interfering? And then I looked at me, and I literally broke up laughing. If you ever look at yourself and see the stupid things you're doing, you'll be laughing at yourself. So here's the bottom line for suggestions for taking command of your ship. The first is be the observer. Mysticism always talks about the observer. That's what we tried to do a little bit of in the meditation this morning. Move into that peaceful, centered place at the center of you where you can watch the part of me that was able to look at the yelling me and see how stupid I looked. And, oh my God. You gotta be kidding me. You're having a breakdown here in the middle of this bus. Look at that. But notice, until I actually looked at myself, I had no idea what I was doing. I was caught in the emotion. We need to, throughout our day, have the observer that keeps watching. You want to watch yourself enjoying life. You want to watch yourself hating life. You want to watch yourself get angry. You want to watch yourself have an argument. You want to watch yourself obsessing on how unfair something is. Watch the obsession. Awareness is 80% of getting control of it. So move into that observer and keep a close watch on yourself, like Timothy said. Oh no, Timothy didn't say it. Paul said it to Timothy. Enjoy your personality, but run your life from that peace-centered place within you. That's what learning to move into the observer is all about, and doing it constantly through your life. Keep watching yourself, because your soul is watching. Keep making that connection. Number 2, set out to remove negative thought patterns and harsh judgments from your mind and replace them with celebration of goodness, understanding, and compassion. Compassion is how you handle the stupid people in your life, the violent people in your life. Who was it who said, when a man is being discordant, it is not a personal affront, it's a measure of his being. Happy people don't cause other people to be miserable. Unhappy people. And so you move straight out of I'm hurt into compassion, and you don't have to be hurt. You must hurt a lot to try to do that to us, to me. So, we've given talk after talk of trying to clean up our minds and our hearts from the negativity, and step by step, and it's a lifelong project, step by step, step away from the anger, the fear, the pain. Step away from all of that. Step away from knowing the world would be a whole lot better if this person was dead. Step away from that. Put your attention on, say, hey, it isn't worthy of the energy of my thoughts. It isn't worthy of my world. Number 3, use self-will to rein in your emotions. You are responsible for your emotions. Don't let them run the show. I shouldn't have let that horse take me all the way back to the barn. At least that's what the guy in charge of the whole experience told me. But I didn't know how. Notice excuses. I wasn't able to stop him. Well, you should have exerted a little more will on yourself, on your horse. So, rein in your emotions, turn away from anger and fear. Fear runs people's lives. A man without fear is a major force to be dealt with. Because fear almost runs everybody's life. And when you are not answering to fear, wow, that's an empowering state. Anger is an expression of fear. So turn away from anger and fear. Examine your desires. Other people are led around by their desires. Their whole life is, but I really wanted this, I had to have this, I had to do that. You say, well, it comes in many different forms. Some people have the gotta have a woman or gotta have a man syndrome. You say, well, is that bad? And no, relationships are wonderful. But if you can't be alone, that's a problem. And personally, I always thought I wanted to work on myself in between my relationships so that I would rise to a little higher level and hopefully attract someone to me on a new level. That type of thing. But there are some people who just are addicted, I'm going to get to that in a minute, to having a woman in their life or a man in their life. Be who you are, and then move into a relationship that's good. Don't let your desires move you back into a bad relationship if you just left one. Observe your emotions and then back off. Observe how you feel. I didn't say stop it, control it, bury it. I'm not saying that. Observe it. I'm angry. Okay, now let's back up and just watch the anger for a moment. And say, that's not where I want to go. Yes, you can generate positive emotions anytime you choose. You can generate joy in the midst of a catastrophe. It'll take some practice. And it definitely will take self-will. But you're the captain of your ship anytime you're willing to take on that responsibility. Choose not to be hurt. It's a choice. You can't be hurt. I remember I went to visit a friend who had gotten married, and her guy, unbeknownst to me, had taken this horrible dislike to me. He showed up while I was giving, I said, I hear you guys are going off to do this wonderful adventure, and I gave him I was coming over to present one of my prized possessions. It was an Aladdin lamp, those kerosene lanterns that create as much light as a 100-watt light bulb. Anyway, I brought it up, and he came in, and he started down the road, and it was, I don't like you. And I thought, okay, I'm sorry you don't like me. And then da-da-da-da, and he kept going, and I said, well, I appreciate honesty, so at least we're being honest here and getting it on. And finally, he storms out the door, and I turn to her, and I go, what just happened? And she said, I think he was trying to get into a fight with you. I said, just went over my head. I wasn't insulted. I just said, okay. Wow, this is a guy who doesn't like me. I wonder what happened. I wonder what's going on. But you can allow it to just go over your head. You don't have to have your life ruined because someone insulted you. Who cares? Now, your emotions will immediately react. But if you step back, you don't have to be hurt. Do not allow addictions to rule your life, whether they are physical addictions, whether they're emotional addictions, like that, I gotta have a man, gotta have a woman, I've gotta have things go right, I've gotta have it my way. Those are all emotional addictions. And then mental addictions. I'm right, I think of it this way, and that's the way it is. In the end, you'll find everything you think in life is wrong. The further you go, the more you know you don't know, not the more you have it under control. The more you realize it's bigger than this human mind can actually fully encompass. So quit obsessing on trying to be right. Just do the best you can. Take responsibility for everything in your life. I call it the CEO effect. You want to change your life, the first thing you have to do is quit blaming everyone and everything around you for why you're where you are. Now, they may have contributed. I get that. But it's the moment that you say, but it's my life. I'm not going to say, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Wow. There is a movie, I'm a movie buff, so I remember a movie from long ago that I saw on TV. It was definitely a B movie. It was one of those where this doofus type guy, this guy who couldn't do anything right ends up on this trip to Mars, the first trip to Mars, and all his teammates have to kind of cover for him and everything. They get to Mars and they're saying, just stay back, we'll take care of everything, and the leader is all prepared. He has prepared the exact words that are going to be the first words spoken on Mars, the same way we have the first words spoken on the moon. Only the crazy guy manages to slip and fall, lands on the ground outside, and the first words spoken on Mars are, "It's not my fault." How classic. That's humanity. It's not my fault. Only when you say, I take responsibility, and from here we're going up. I'm responsible for my life, no matter how messed up it's gotten. Remember Charles Loomis saying, I'm responsible for my life when he lost everything. And not necessarily from his doing. And by the way, while you're not blaming other people, don't blame yourself. That's just as bad. Put your energy into, okay, I've learned this lesson and this won't happen again. Don't put it, how can I do that? Oh, I destroyed it all. That's useless. That's such a waste of energy. Say, okay, I made a mistake there. I think I see what it is, and that won't happen again. Put your energy into that commitment. I ain't going there again. If you spend yourself time, well, that's it, next being right. If you spend your time defending yourself, you'll probably be back at this same spot again because you haven't taken responsibility for it. You got to see what you could have done to make it better. 6 is avoid trying to be right or having to be right. It will stunt your growth. I'm right. I've often asked people, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? There are times when I knew I was right and I needed to back off if I wanted to be happy. Do you want to be right or you want to be happy? The problem is this world is not about right and wrong. Right and wrong is such kindergarten kid stuff, it's ridiculous. This world is about learning and improving and getting better. That's all it's about. Getting better from wherever you are. And if you've got to say, I was in the right, you're defending the outer part of you that doesn't matter anyway. And you're saying, I'm not going to learn the lesson. It's not my fault. What you want to be saying is, what was my part in this problem, however small? I don't care what happens. You had a little tiny piece of it. Even when it's 99 and 44, 100%, the other person, or at least we're telling ourselves that. Then take a look at that 0.66%. Because that's the part you have charge of. You can change it. And sometimes it's as simple as, I should have seen this coming, and I'm going to be a little more aware next time. Great. You learned the lesson. I was right. You missed the lesson. Number 7, when you hit a shock or a challenge, fall into self-control mode. Hold yourself steady to navigate these waters. So often when you hit a shock or a challenge, your emotions take over. We get angry, we get upset, we get overwhelmed, we cry, we're a mess. When someone insults you, when that guy walked in and said, I don't really like you, the first thing I did inside was step back to steady, Bob. And then look. Well, do you have any reasons for this? Have I done, et cetera. And, well, what good can you find in it? I said, well, I like honesty. And I guess you're being honest. Well, good. Step back to steady, because sometimes when your emotions run away with you, it's not really where you want to go. So often having a tirade in the middle of a situation. Have you ever seen these people who get within just a few steps of total success and blow it with an emotional outburst? When had they stepped back, they'd have thought, it's not worth it. Where I want to go is over here, and that's where I'm going. It would be remunerative to tell the world off right now, but it won't get me what I want. That type of control of yourself makes you a force to be dealt with. It leads you to success. Number 8, and you're going, my God, yeah, okay. Control your expectations of others and be understanding when others fail you. The world is filled with stupid people. And I'm one of them. Okay? Be understanding. People have shortcomings. That's why we're in the earth. That's what earth is all about. So have compassion. Say, well, I should have known. And next time I won't loan them my car knowing what a rotten driver they are. I knew that and I gave it to them anyway. Okay. And the last one, boy, you're glad to hear that. Declare on a daily basis, I'm the captain of my ship. I've been doing a lot of the negative stuff we have to avoid. This is where we need to stand. You need to stand with self-will. You need to know you are in control of your life and you're not giving it to anyone else. I am in control from within. I am going to let God's light and God's love shine through me no matter what the world throws at me. I'm the captain of my ship. Live life centered and from inside out. Whatever comes, in order to go where you want to go. It's called act in life, don't react. If you're always reacting, you'll never get where you want to go. The people who are constantly reacting to life are the 8 ball. You want to be the one playing billiards. And you can be from inside out. If life knocks you down, you get back up. If life tears away the path that you are pursuing and says you can't do this anymore, you find another path to fulfillment. And you never give the outer world the power over your inner state of being. I'm the captain of my ship. The whole world can go wrong, but I control how I feel. So, Last story. Years ago, after failing in a certain type of endeavor for years, I'm in talking to Karen. I'm saying that I was so sure I'd be able to get this under control and master it. I still think I can succeed. And she looks at me and she caught me off guard. She was supportive. In any case, sorry. She turned and she said, "Oh, I know you will conquer this eventually. You're like a dog with a bone, and you won't quit until you succeed." Now that's the attitude I want you to have about creating a good life that serves God and is fulfilling to me. I want you to be that dog with a bone that ain't going to give up until you fulfill your ideas. So, here's how we close off. I want a good life that serves God and deeply satisfies me. We're going to declare it together. I want a good life that serves God and deeply satisfies me. Anybody disagree with that? No, I think that covers it, right? I want a good life that serves God and deeply satisfies. Number 2, I am the captain of my ship and I won't give up the dream until it fully manifests in my life. Together. I am the captain of my ship and I won't give up the dream until it fully manifests in my life. It's up to you. The world will throw everything it's got at you. But if you don't give up the inner citadel, you will win. So let's close our eyes. Father, may thy Spirit moving through us cause thy light and thy love to shine from inside right into my outer life. Thy will be done in each of our lives. May we truly live fulfilling lives that serve the greater good of all. Amen. If the ushers will come forward, we'll prepare for our offering. And I said different things, but I didn't go any slower. I mean any shorter. I did go slower. And I apologize, but you know, when I leave town, I have to talk twice as much when I come back. Oh well. Let's bless our offering. Let's hold it in our hands. Divine love through me.